And sometimes that's the hardest question is, what do I actually want? And then the second part is learning how to communicate that in the way that's taking responsibility for what we need to own and what we're doing that's difficult in the partnership.
The first step is understanding the awareness of it. And when you can understand that concept, when you're able to have a conversation and both people can step back and say, okay, what part did I play in this? Because when we're having a conversation and it's, you did this and you did that and you did this and you did that, then it's like nobody can learn or integrate what's really going on. But when you can both step back and say, what part did I play in this? How did this feel for the other person? And what part is mine and what part is theirs? I think really that's the first step.
I am here with Jasmine, and she is a relationship and intimacy coach, also specializing in breakups, which that's what we're trying to avoid here. But tell us a little bit about what's your
Thank you,
Jasmine?
Joe. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I help mainly women. I also work with men, but mainly women, helping them to embody confidence, heal toxic patterns, and step into their power so that they can create aligned, conscious, and healthy relationships.
That is what I am trying to help people with too, with a aligned, healthy, conscious relationship. That is the goal. So I'm guessing that when working with people, there's a lot of themes that come up consistently. These are the most common things that come up when people come to you for this help.
I find that generally when I'm working with people, I take them on a bit of a journey. And the place that I always love to start is working on the inner child, because the inner child is always the blueprint to the relationships have as adults. And so if we haven't worked through some of our childhood wounds, they can often show up in our adult relationships. And then from the inner child comes our attachment styles, potentially trauma bonds, codependency. I find that starting with the inner child and then working through those different modalities, they're all interlinked and they're all interconnected. But really, going on a journey of understanding like this is the surface level relationship and what are the patterns and where are they coming from underneath. And then I've also been doing a lot of interviews around research lately, and the, I've interviewed around 35 people in the last month. And the most common challenge that people face is communication, understanding how to communicate, how to feel heard, how to feel understood and seen, and really being able to open up and be vulnerable and share your deepest truths with somebody can be quite difficult for many people. I think growing up, we weren't really taught communication skills when it comes to relationships. And a very common thread throughout interviewing people and working with my clients is understanding like, how do I talk to this person so we don't end up blaming each other or pointing fingers and not being able to take responsibility. And I think also another big one in relationships is needing to take responsibility, because each person plays a role in the relationship. And when we can take responsibility, it means that we can really go in and do the work. But if we're not willing to be responsible for our part, then we can't grow consciously together. So I think also taking responsibility is a really big piece of being in a relationship.
Yes, I came to the same conclusions also that communication is key. And what are the tools we can use to express our own needs, but first understand what do we want? And sometimes that's the hardest question is, what do I actually want? And then the second part is learning how to communicate that in the way that's, like you said, is not the blame, taking responsibility for what we need to own and what we're doing that's difficult in the partnership. I would love to take both of those and talk
Mhm,
about them separately. Let's start with the
mhm,
taking ownership. So you speak about this if I need to take ownership, I say, well, how do I start taking ownership for someone that's constantly blaming others or oh, it's
Mhm,
always the victim, right? Which is very easy to be the victim
mhm.
in relationships. How do we own
The
it?
first step is understanding the awareness of it and like really being aware of, oh, wow, two people need to be responsible, right? And when you can understand that concept, when you're able to have a conversation and both people can step back and say, okay, what part did I play in this? Because when we're having a conversation and it's you did this and you did that and you did this and you did that, then it's like nobody can learn or integrate what's really going on. But when you can both step back and say, what part did I play in this? How did this feel for the other person? And what part is mine and what part is theirs? And I think when you're able to really step back and think about the part that you played and the awareness around the responsibility, I think really that's the first step. And then the second step is then obviously being able to communicate your part that you played and how to, learn from that, that the things that come up around that.
So let's say I'm in a relationship and I start to recognize, oh my God, I've been holding myself back, or I haven't been sharing
Mhm.
my love, or I've been anxious, or whatever it is. So I recognize that. So the first step is owning, oh, okay, I have a
Mhm.
part in this. What do I do
Mhm.
next?
I guess it's understanding what part you're playing. What is the responsibility that you're taking? What are you taking responsibility for? So every part that we play is different. So let's just say, I'll use an example of like maybe you haven't been able to express yourself or express your needs. And so you think, okay, I'm going to take responsibility of not being able to express my needs or express my vulnerabilities. And you can go away and have a think about what is a way that I can communicate my needs better? How can I be more vulnerable? And so I think it depends on what part you're taking responsibility for and then breaking it down and figuring out tools and ways that you can express your needs or express your true feelings. So that's just one example of how you can take responsibility for a part that you're playing or not being able to show up fully.
Let's get real and try to use examples from our own lives and let me try and maybe we can workshop it together and see if you're able to do the
Sure.
same too. Because my guess, even though we're dedicating our lives to healthy relationships, I know in myself that I still do things that are unhealthy. And sometimes I'm like, I should know better. And
Mhm.
I know this. Something I could own lately is feeling anxious when I don't feel 100% chosen, and then trying to hold on tighter instead of giving the space that my partner needs. I can own that, and I've seen it. The reaction to that is my partner needs more space. Someone once told me, she only needs as much space as you don't give her.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it was like, ooh, ooh, true. So I feel like I can own that I was bringing some anxiousness and like some clinginess, and I wasn't finding my own
Mhm.
security within myself.
Beautiful.
You? Anything you
Mm.
you can own?
It's something that's come up recently from my partner and I is being able to meet each other in an like, when we both want intimacy, right? Or when one wants intimacy and the other one doesn't. So we've been really working on trying to understand if we're not both fully aligned for intimacy in that moment, how can we still create connection without making somebody do something that they don't want to do or they're not available for?
Mm.
So we've really been understanding going from like this performance based connection, which is I want this and I want this now, to where are we both at? How can we communicate what we're both available for and still have connection and meet each other in the same in the place that we're both available at. And so that's been something that we've been working on is like trying to understand like, do you want intimacy? Yes or no? If or what are you available for and what are you not available for right now? And trying to meet in that place. So that's been something that we've been working on. Yeah.
What can you
Really,
own in that?
I think,
Which
yeah,
part can
really
you own
being
in
able
that?
to speak into my vulnerability and be accepted in that. Oh, I'm not like speaking my truth, trying to express myself fully and own my needs. And what if he rejects me? What if what if he or he feels rejected and then I feel guilty, right? So it's like really learning how to express myself, express my truth, be vulnerable, and still be lovable. Right?
Mhm.
And still love myself through that.
I had a beautiful conversation with a woman that was with her partner for a very long time. It was 30 years. And one of the things she said that was really triggering to me was that she always found a way to meet her partner's sexual needs, even when she wasn't
Mm,
in the mood. And that triggered me. A lot of my life has been about
mhm,
equality between men and women, and different genders and sexuality. And for me, it's especially more learning a lot about the Tantra world. Tune in. And if you don't want to be sexual, you
mhm,
just don't be sexual, right? Because then it's crossing your
mhm,
own boundaries. It can create trauma in the body. It can create all sorts of essentially
mhm,
negative things, right? And she was saying, no, no, if you want to have a healthy relationship, you need to understand your partner's needs. Just if their need is to talk and be heart centered, or if their needs are sleep, like those sexual needs specifically, again, these are not my words, in a man is like she has found if she can find a way to meet his needs, he ends up giving her an abundance of all of her needs, right? And when he is not feeling and when she's not meeting those needs, then she finds that he's a little grumpier, is not as much compliments. It was a little shameful. There was a little shame in me as the masculine because sometimes I'll feel a need for that physical, especially if it goes a week or longer. I start getting weird. My hormones are all over the place. I can't think straight. And it starts to feel a little bit more like a need. But I would never want my partner to do anything physically that she doesn't
mhm,
want to do. Because to me, that's like, you just, no, it's my
mhm,
job to just be patient. And this woman was saying the opposite. And she said that, oh, sometimes you go to the beach and the water's a little cold. You don't want to get in the water. And then somebody's like, hey, we should go swimming. You're like, I don't know, it's a little cold. Then you end up getting in the water and you end up loving it and you get out and you're like, oh, I'm
mhm,
so happy we did that. And this was the euphemism of. And it's not that she's always having intercourse or if she doesn't want to, it's just she'll really try to understand and
Yep.
find ways to
Mm.
just be available. And I'm curious, as a woman that I know has spent a lot on sacred sexuality and tantra and communication, what do you think about
Yeah.
what she's saying?
I'm not going to judge what she's saying because it's her path and not the way that she moved through something. So I'm not going to make a judgment about that. I can speak for myself and what I teach and what I embody. And that is, I believe that sexuality is a very sacred act between two human beings. And if somebody, let's just say, for a woman, if she's been in her masculine all day and she's been like working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and she gets home from work and I'm just so exhausted. I just have no energy left. I have nothing to give right now. And I'm just not in the mood. Let's just say that's where she's at in that moment. And if it was coming from a performance based perspective, it would be like, but I'll just get my clothes on and I'll just push myself to do it. And then I'll just do the act, right? That's performance based. And the other side that you could do, which could be a softer, more feminine way, which is I've had a big day. I'm stressed. I'm exhausted. I'm not in the mood right now. Maybe we could do a few connection exercises to help me get into my body and have a shower and maybe have a bath and, put some roses in the bath and help me to unwind from my big day. Maybe he can give me a little 5-minute massage to help me get out of my logical thinking mind and help me to get into my feminine body. And then let's see how we go from there. So on the other end, an example of what you just gave, which was, okay, I don't feel like going swimming right now, but maybe we just could go and sit on the beach and enjoy the sunset. And then maybe when I'm down there, I feel like getting in the water. So it's so just to follow up with the way that works is sometimes in that moment, you don't feel like it. But if you take the time to connect and do some eye gazing and give some tantric massages, then maybe throughout doing those exercises, your energy can shift and then you might feel like you're in more of a state to be able to be sexual. And so I think it's just a matter of honoring how you feel, learning some exercises that you can do to help you to get in the body. Especially for women, they take a little bit more to get in the body and to relax and to warm up sometimes, whereas men, generally speaking, they're on and ready to go. And most of the time, not always, not if they've had a big day and they're also exhausted or something, but generally speaking, men are quicker to be like, all right, let's go. And women can take a little more time to warm up. And so maybe it just takes a little more to warm up and get into the body and, to have some kisses on the neck and help you to feel more embodied in your feminine so you're ready to give from that place. So that would be my,
What I'm
yeah.
really what I'm hearing from that is make efforts just to not promise to do anything, but just to put some effort in and some time in trying to understand and be there with someone and come into that connection where both people can feel loved. And yeah, sounds beautiful.
Mhm.
Sounds beautiful. Thank you. And I think I want to start coming back to a bit of the communication. The one thing we talked about is owning what am I doing that's making the relationship difficult or how what are my outlook, how is that, what is my perspective, and just owning that and being self-aware of it is one. And then number two, you can start doing something about that or at least communicating to your partner. I'm really sorry, I noticed I'm speaking this way and I notice I'm bringing anxious energy. And so the next part is the communication. Is there any specific tools that you find are really crucial in healthy
Yeah,
relationships?
I think two tools that I use in my own relationship and that I teach some of my clients are the first one is a relationship check in. So once a week or
Mm,
once every 2 weeks, we have a set of questions that ask us about our week, what we've loved about the week, what's been challenging in our relationship, how do we feel that we've had enough intimacy and quality time together. And so we do a relationship check once every week or once every 2 weeks, just to make sure that we're constantly clearing things and there's not things that are building resentment. Because I find that often we don't have these conversations and things build
mm.
up and resentment builds up and the thing that she did this morning, kind of annoyed me that I didn't say anything. And then in the afternoon, I'm like still chewing over that. And then I'm like, and this is a beautiful way to not get to the point of you did this and you did that. And it's like a way to make sure that you're constantly clearing and speaking into these challenges or the little dishes that you didn't wash this morning or those sorts of things. They don't build up and build resentment over time. And so I find that relationship check-ins have been a really beautiful thing for me to be able to help with that and to communicate all the time. And the other thing that I teach is a beautiful dialogue, and maybe you know about it. It's basically like a dialogue that you do in a way that, like, let's say I will speak for 5 minutes, and then my partner will repeat back what I said. So I know that he understood me, and I know that whatever I said, he gets. And that if he says something that I didn't really mean or he took it in the wrong way, I can then go back and make sure that correct whatever I said. And then he can share the impact of what I said. And so it's like a dialogue as a timer, being able to repeat back and then sharing the impact. And then we would switch. And so that was a beautiful way to make sure we were feeling heard, understood, seen, and loved. And that's really the four things that people want to feel in a relationship when they're having a conversation. They want to feel heard, they want to feel understood, they want to feel seen, and they want to feel loved. And that's what that dialogue does, is it helps you so that someone's not butting in when you're speaking, they're repeating themselves so that you know that, oh yeah, he really understood me. And then there's the feedback at the end. So that's you.
Can you explain
Yeah.
the feedback?
Yeah. So the feedback, it's not feedback, it's impact. So it's, let's just say
Mm,
you and I are in a partnership and I just shared with you something that's really upset me. And then you've repeated back what I said. And then I say, actually, no, I meant it this way. And then when you share the impact of what I said, it's like, oh, wow, that really made me feel sad. That's what you experienced. Or, ah, I didn't mean for that to happen that way. And it makes me feel a lot of empathy and sympathy for what you experienced. So that's what impact is. It's like, how did what I say impact you?
yes, I love this, and I also find this is the one of the most useful
Mhm.
communication tools, and not even just in
Yeah.
romantic partnerships, but even in business is the summary. And then I haven't done as much as the impact part, but I
Mm,
will start folding that in. I would love to give listeners or viewers an
mm,
example of this, and maybe we can do this together because I would say this is one of the most powerful things, along with being able to own
mhm,
my own feelings
mhm.
and be responsible for my own feelings. This is up there. Let me try. I can try to start it off, and and say if we
Mm.
were in a partnership, I would say something like, Jasmine, what would feel really good for me is if we're apart for a day or two and we get back together, I would love just like a kiss and a hug, and that would make me feel really loved. And I found it a bit difficult that that doesn't happen often. And I just wanted to share like how important that is to me to feel loved. And I understand I'm not blaming you that you did anything wrong. It's just I wanna share what would yeah, so that we can feel more connected. I would love that with you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Joe. So what I hear is that when we've been apart for some time, when we reconnect and come back together, what makes you feel really loved is when I give you a hug and a kiss and I welcome you with warm affection. And that makes you feel really loved and really
Mhm.
appreciated when we've been spending time apart and coming and you love the most is feeling physical touch. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is my love
Mm.
language. Thank you. And hearing you say that, it makes me really feel like you heard me, so thanks.
And the way that impacts me is that I really love giving you hugs and kisses when you come home. And I didn't realize that was something that you felt you weren't getting enough of. So I'm really sorry that you felt that you weren't getting that when you come home. And I would really love to make more effort into doing that for you so that you feel more loved when you come home from a big day.
Mm. Oh my god, even though that was, like, not real, it still makes me wanna cry. I'm like, it's so impactful.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you for that example, and really, it's just that is such a powerful tool, so thank you for sharing that. Is there other things that come up often when you're working with people that you found really useful? I also am a huge fan of the
Mhm.
relationship check-in, but for me, I usually once a month or 6 month or once every like 4 to 6 weeks, I found
Mm.
to be a little better for me. The once a week was
Mhm.
getting a little too much for me. I was like, but I respect that works well for you guys. So there's that, and anything else?
Any other tool?
Tools or just communication techniques that you've found
Mm.
really useful? Really, m my goal and purpose is, are there things that I can share to the world that create easier, healthier relationships? How do we make it easier for each
Mhm.
other? And when we learn
Mhm.
good communication, our relationships get a lot easier and we get more of what we
Definitely.
want. And so therefore we're
Totally.
happier. So
There's one more
yeah, I'm always curious things I
there's
don't
one more
know.
tool that comes to mind, and I think you might know this one already, but we can talk about it, which is the RBVSN conversation. And I find that tool really powerful, and you can shape it into whether it's a new relationship that you're just coming into, or whether it's you've been in a relationship for a while, you can change it into your own way. But I'd find that the RBDSM conversation is a really powerful way to get to know somebody. Or if you're already in a relationship, you can change it. So basically, the R stands for relationship, the B stands for boundary, E stands for desire, S is safety, and M is meaning. And I also put my own one in there, which is fear. And so if you're in a new relationship, you can ask questions like, are you looking for a relationship, or are you wanting something more casual, or do you like having open relationships, or are you more monogamous? So just getting clear around where you stand in the way of the relationship that you want to create and your desires within that. The boundaries is I'm available for this or I'm not available for that. And it can be like my boundary is if we're in a relationship, I don't want you to be sleeping with anybody else, or and it can be for short term or long term. It can be for the interaction that you're about to have today. And maybe that I really love to get to know you, but I don't want to be intimate. My boundary is I'm not ready to be intimate yet, or maybe a boundary is you can touch my face, but you can't touch my body. Like there's so many boundaries that we can create, right? It can be in the physical sense of right now, or it could be like in a more long term sense. Like, yeah, I don't want you sleeping with anybody else if we're sleeping together. They're just a couple of examples. The desires would be, I really desire to spend quality time with you and share really more in depth about who you are. My desire is to jump in bed with you and have crazy wild sex. So you can speak into your desires and about the things you really want to experience with each other. Again, long term or short term. The the safety is around primarily around like safe sexuality. So it can be like I want to use contraception. These are the things that make me feel safe, and then the meaning is like, okay, we're gonna have this interaction right now, and this means that we never see each other again, or this means that I would love to have a text message tomorrow. Or one of my biggest things that I would talk about when I was dating was one thing that was really important to me. And this is how I prevented myself from getting ghosted if I went on a date was something that was really important to me was if you feel that you don't want to be engaged in this connection anymore, if you could please just let me know that, hey, I really think you're a great person, that I'm just not feeling this connection long term, so that I knew we were going to get some closure at the end. And you can do that. Let's say you've been in a long term partnership, you can just do boundaries, desires. And the other one I add in is fears. So I'm scared or I'm fearful that I'm, feel stronger about you than you do about me. Or I'm fearful that I have a lot of body confidence issues. And if we're intimate, then I'm going to be self-conscious and I want to turn off the light. So speaking into your fears also helps just to create connection because of the vulnerability. So that's something else you can speak into if you've been in a more longer term relationship and you can just use the desired boundaries and fears. So that's a powerful conversation that you can
Yeah,
use as well, whether you're in a new relationship or whether you've been dating for a while.
I love that one. I learned that one in an
Mm.
ISTA retreat and been
Mhm.
using it ever since. Although I've actually created my own since because I actually have found I've used that conversation so many times and I didn't like the order. It
Mhm.
felt wrong to me because you talk about your desires and then you talk about your sexual health and like when's the last time you got tested? And I felt like it was always like this like we were like it was getting sexy and smooth and then we're like, okay, now let me pull out my Dropbox and show you my STI test. Uh, So I change it to a different acronym, which is simpler, which is Ready, Make a Special Lover,
Mm.
RMSL, which is similar. I'm in a relationship, I'm
Mhm.
not. This is what I'm looking for. What
Mhm.
does it mean? What is your
Mhm.
sexual health? When's the last time you got tested? Did you use contraception? And then the last one is your
Mhm.
likes or loves, or L is your likes and loves. Because that way, by ending
Mhm.
on, oh, I'd love for you to kiss me all over my body. I would love to take all our clothes. Then you end on the sexier, more
Fun.
positive side instead of
Yeah.
this like
I love
mm,
that.
RMSL is what I
I
have
love
been
that.
using. But I agree. It's very important to do with any new relationship because one, it keeps you from being sexual with someone that you really
Mhm.
shouldn't be sexual with. If you're like, man, I really like
Mhm.
you. And, I would love to explore if this could be something that we could get into and stay in. And they're like, I just want to
Mhm.
fuck tonight. You're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that if it's in consent, but if it's not what you want, and if you say something like for me, it's super important if I'm
Mhm.
physical and intimate with someone physically, I need to communicate the next day. Hey, that was
Mhm.
really beautiful. I would love to do that again. I don't want to do that again. Whatever it is. If someone doesn't get back to me the next day, it like, I don't know why, but something in me, I'm just like, "W- what?
Yeah.
I So, communicating that ahead of time and seeing what someone's available for and
Mhm.
seeing if it matches. The downside is I was having less sex because I was finding out that there was actually less matches there. But the upside was if I was being sexual, it was way more aligned and it was m more often than not, almost always a
Mhm.
really beautiful experience on
Yeah.
both sides. So, thank you for that. I wanna switch it up a little bit, and I know that you have been in a relationship that you're really
Yeah.
excited about, and I would love to just talk a little bit about what are the parts of that relationship that make you feel really
Mm.
positive, and this could be a longer term golden
Mm.
relationship?
God. So many beautiful things, but I think this one of the strengths that I feel in our relationship is our communication. I feel that I can really talk to him about anything. And we're really committed to being a team and to working through things together. And we talk about having each other's backs and supporting each other and really like whenever one of us has an issue or something going on, like we always say, as long as we're together, we feel at home. And it's really about a feeling that we've got this team and this support and this encouragement that no matter what happens, we're like unshakable. And as long as we're together and as long as we're working together, we always get through everything. And he also is really into self development. And that's been a huge thing for me because I'm really into self development and he's constantly wanting to better ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. And so for me, that's been such a beautiful experience to be with someone that's so committed to being the best version of himself. And we encourage each other. We're always setting new goals at the beginning of the month and we're doing different ceremonies. And we want to do retreats and all of these things to continue to help us to grow together. And I think that's been one of the biggest game changers in a relationship is we really focus on self development and being a team and encouraging each other to be the best version of ourselves for ourselves and each other.
And
Yeah.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
What are the challenges you mentioned earlier, like synchronizing
Mhm.
some of the
Mhm.
intimacy desires? Is there anything else that's been a challenge for
Mm.
you guys?
Yeah, like I think also another thing that we've been talking about recently is like scheduling, actually. Like, how much time do we want to spend together? Who stays at whose house? He wants me to stay at his house. I want to stay at my house. That's been one of the challenges we're facing. We're moving in together in January. So hopefully that problem will dissipate a little bit. I want him to be here and he wants me to be there. We we want to spend all of this time together, but where we spend the time has been a bit of a challenge. What else? Yeah, I would say like under.
In the fact Go ahead. It's good that it's hard to find things. I think that's a good
Yeah, I
sign.
would say being on the same page. Like I've had a really busy month, and so my energy hasn't been in my total feminine flowy energy. As I said before, being available for intimacy and being available to give him the affection and attention that he needs has definitely been a bit more challenging for me. He has a lot more time and he has a lot more space, and I'm busy, and so that's been a bit of an imbalance where I'm go and he's more available. So yeah, I would say that's the other chapter we're working on, which is like timing, energy. Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah.
very manageable.
Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. very happy for you. It warms my heart when people feel really filled in
Mm,
partnerships. It's so
mm,
beautiful to
thank
hear.
you.
Jasmine, I think we're nearing the end. Is there anything that you feel like you still really want to express or it's important to express to people about either finding their golden
Mm.
relationship or maintaining
I think
it
one of the
or losing
tools that
it?
I really love to speak into when someone says to me, like, what do you think the key is to a really successful relationship? And I love to use the concept of the 5 C's. And if you don't have one of these, I feel that there could be a misalignment in the relationship. So the 5 C's are commitment, compatibility, communication, chemistry, and compassion. So I feel that if one of those are out of
Mm,
alignment, or if the chemistry doesn't quite weigh up, or if the communication just seems to always be challenging, or one of the people doesn't have compassion or understanding about the other person, I feel that often you won't be able to have a health fulfilling relationship if one of those things are out of alignment. So that's the guidelines I love to give when someone asks me, what is it the ways to a healthy relationship? I think those 5 C's have been my guiding star of when someone wants a quick pep talk of what it is, they're my key to a healthy relationship.
So let's
Mhm.
review communication,
Yeah,
compassion,
yeah,
compatibility,
yeah.
chemistry,
Commitment,
and what's the last
commitment.
one? And commitment. Thank you. I think I'll use that. That's a very beautiful one. In the connection map, I have all of that in there. They're using a little different words. I have like communication ease, like
Hmm.
how easy it's to communicate. Is it? And then life merge is that intention to put your lives together, which you're calling commitment. But it's as simple as whose house are we going to
Hmm.
for holidays, to are we having children? Where are we living in the world? Like, how are we
Hmm.
merging our finances? What's our
Hmm.
intention from that? And then the compatibility is basically
Hmm.
all the categories: core
Hmm.
value alignments, deal breaking, trauma health. These is all sexuality, polarity, chemistry. I would call
Hmm.
polarity, sexual attraction, openness for sexuality, etc. Yeah, I would agree. This is it's a very concise way to say you need those things. Because sadly, love is not enough, right? If those C's, if you love someone with
Hmm.
all your heart and those C's aren't there, I don't see it
Totally.
working out.
Totally. So they've been a good little guidance for me when someone says, "Oh, I'm not sure if this person is right for me." And I'll go, "Do you have all of these things? And if not, which one is out of alignment? And do you think this is something you can work on? Or do you think this is something you'll never be able to have?" So yeah, I love that little 5 C, good little guidance. Wow.
Thank you. That is a fantastic way to
Mm.
end. So, Jasmine, thank you so much for being with us. I thought that was very beautiful and
Mm.
useful. And I felt your heart and your desire to help people in this. So, if you're interested in more, you can work with Jasmine directly. Check out her Instagram and her website. Why don't you tell us what it is for the
Yes.
audio
So my
listeners?
Instagram is underscore Jasmine OH underscore. And my website is www.nobodylikeme.com. me.com.au.
There's nobody like you, love.
Yeah. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.